Hi, Sandy here. Seems like it's been a while, but I finally finished another glue book. This is my second Victorian extra large glue book. These are the old vintage scrapbooks with the black pages that you would use the corners and put your photos in. That's not what I did with I made glue books. I got this a couple of years ago and didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I wasn't going to use it for a scrapbook. Then I decided to make a glue book with it. So that's the cover, and I just think it's beautiful. I didn't do anything with it. That's the way it came. So here's the first page. Just various things. I hope there's not a lot of glare from the lights. So I got this old fairy soap ad. I get stuff from scrapbooking paper, from magazines. I print stuff off of Pinterest. Just lots of things. And yeah, here's some stickers, just trying to use things up. I'll have to slide the book back and forth to get it centered here so you can see the page. This is from a magazine. I love using Victorian houses and Victorian ladies and birds and old ads, scrapbook paper, postage, butterflies, just all kinds of things. Flowers, more Victorian rooms. Just lots of pretty things. And I had a calendar of these houses, and I usually do 8.5 by 11 pages. These pages are about 11 by 13, I think. So they're pretty big. So I like to start with like almost a full magazine page or something big to fill in part of it, and then I don't have so much space to fill in. And so these are Tim Holtz ladies right here, and these are I also have some calendars. This is from a calendar page. And then I added these things, you know, just to make it my own instead of just slapping a calendar page on there and I'm done. This is a magazine page. This is scrapbooking stuff. Another magazine, cut out of a magazine. This is out of a small calendar magazine. Birds and Blooms is really good. Did I glue that? Yeah, I glued that bird on there, but I think I cut it out of Birds and Blooms. Just pretty things. Magazine. This printed off Pinterest. This is from scrapbooking, something I bought. This is out of a magazine. I like to make these little clusters of things. This is printed. I think it's printed off of Pinterest. A magazine printed from Pinterest. I love making tags. I printed these tags. I glued them onto some colored paper and got a little margin around it. I used ink and made them kind of antique looking. And then this is an old postcard, not vintage old, but old-fashioned looking. This is from a calendar, magazine, stickers, printed from Pinterest. This is Anne of Green Gables' house. I did a Anne of Green Gables glue book, and I had downloaded some photos from the internet, and I didn't get them all in the book. I think maybe I had a duplicate of this, I don't know, but I didn't get in the book. But it's a Victorian house, so it looks good on this page. Here's a vase, and I like to get things used up. This is actually out of a modern magazine like Family Circle or something right here, and mixing with old stuff. And this is out of Birds and Blooms. You know, I mix the old with the new. I like to use landscapes. I like to use like patio furniture that's vintage style. Just all kinds of things. This is modern. This is it looks like a wedding, fancy wedding setup, but you know, for the reception. These are from scrapbooking paper. I think it's Graphic 45. I could be wrong. And some stickers and just various things. And I love using rooms out of Victorian magazines. This is from scrapbook paper. This is a calendar page. I added some butterflies and just some little things along the edge. I love Victorian houses. I love old stamps. This is actually printed from Pinterest, a whole page of them, which I cut that out. I also had a bunch of Holly Hobby calendars, like 8 of them from the early 80s. And I've had them all these years, and I've cut them up to make glue books, and I'm glad that I put them to use instead of just some old calendars sitting around. And I made a whole book of Holly Hobby, whole glue book with Holly Hobby on every page, and I've got some left, so that's Victorian looking enough to me. It's, and this, I got kind of a garden theme going on here. Here's like a gardening area, and this, I really like that. And then I need to print some more of these ladies. I get these from Pinterest. I really like those. They fill up some space. And I really like adding birds and landscaping. Like I said, there's a gazebo. Birds, love birds. These are out of Victorian magazine, decorating magazines from the 90s, maybe the late 80s and 90s, when Victorian decorating was real popular. Here's a pretty room from a Victorian decorating magazine. Scrapbooking stuff. This I printed off Pinterest. This is printed off Pinterest. I wish I could just print to my heart's content off Pinterest, but that ink is pretty expensive. This is just a cute little fence from a magazine page. And I added just some squares of stuff. I need to work harder at using up all these little bits and pieces. Even though they're not really Victorian, they look good on there. And then I like to use pictures of dogs. There were dogs in Victorian times. And they just make the page really cute. And I used scrapbook paper to fill in the open spaces. And there's a bird. And here's a chair and some books on a cushion, and well, it's a footstool. This is out of a coloring book, the adult coloring books, and there's really nothing to color, really. So I left it as is. I put it on there. Here's a Victorian lady. I just love all this Victorian stuff. This is scrapbooking paper. And then this one, nice green grass, and I thought this went very good with it. And I don't try to use any sort of a color theme or anything. Just mix and match, make it all colorful. Just a lot of pretty elephants. There's a little scrap of paper with butterflies, a bird. I've got some of these I've had for a long, long time. I'm finally getting those used up. And then this is just some scraps of stuff I'm trying to get used up. There. And then here's a pretty little bridge. It's not Victorian, but yes, it is. It's very nice. It looks good with the Victorian stuff. A scrap of paper with birds on it. I've got this cute little Holly Hobby girl out of a magazine, and I glued her onto this postcard and decorated it. And then I added the postcard to my page. Here's calendar page. Let me show you the calendar page real quick. This is one of the calendar page. I got like 6 or about 8 or 10 of these Victorian calendars at a garage sale for $1 in a bag. It was the best buy I've ever gotten in my life. See, and they're all collagey, and I'm just loving them. This is not necessarily one of my favorite pages, but they're like collages, but I didn't do that. It's just the way it is. So, but some of the edges I cut them off to reuse them for other things, and this is from a calendar page. No, I didn't create this collage. Okay. And then here's a magazine page. These are graphic 45. This is from scrapbooking paper, stickers, just various things. A little bit of scrap paper. This is from a Victorian decorating magazine room. I love using these Victorian rooms. I bought a book called The Coat of Many Colors. It's a well-known story, and it's been done by many different people. And the drawings in it were very nice. So I cut the book up I bought it at a thrift shop just so I could cut it up and use the pictures. And I just added a lot of pretty little things. Had this sewing stuff to put on here, and a flower and a heart. So here's one of my calendar pages. It's basically as is. I did add this little heart. I added a strip of scrap paper here, and I added a few little things to, give it my own personal touch. And this is my first attempt at adding wings to a person. This is a Tim Holtz, and this is a butterfly, and it looks really cool, and I really need to try that a few more times. Here I tried to use up a lot of little circles, and I like the way it turned out. I need to do that more often because I got so much of this stuff to get used up. Here's more of a calendar page. Here's a little, I don't know what it is, some sort of a gazebo kind of thing. That's not really, I don't know what it is. And here's a landscape picture with a chair. I sat him on the arm of the chair. He didn't come like that. Just various things. This is a cute little picture I got off the internet somewhere. I printed it. And then here's another one of those houses, and I've added a lot of things around the edges. Cat and a chest and stamps and tickets and butterflies. And then here's another room with a stamp kind of thing. Some of these things, they're not even stamps, but I use my fancy decorative scissors and I make them look like stamps. Then I just filled in this area with the stamp. I don't really have any real stamps. I got stamp stickers. I got printed stamps that I've cut out. I do have a few that I've taken off of today's envelopes, modern stuff. And I do a lot of other glue books besides Victorian, but that's definitely my favorite. Just a bunch of little pretty things here. And here's a house out of a magazine. It's not a Victorian house, but it's kind of a timeless house. It could have been around 100 years ago. I don't think it was, but it could have been. And a pretty bird, and a Victorian lady, and this paper, and a birdhouse, and flowers, and just some things. I made up a couple dozen of these tags long time ago, before I ever started doing glue books, to decorate my scrapbook pages. Well, I don't really have an opportunity in my scrapbook pages to do a lot of vintage Victorian stuff on the pages, because they're today's photos. So I'm getting them used up in my glue books. This is from a magazine. Then there's a bird sticker and a scrap of paper here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a vintage camera, like one of the first cameras on the pedestal, Here's a picture I cut out of a magazine with the frame on it. This is some scrapbook paper, and it had a whole bunch of these that I cut up into pieces. It came already like that. Here's a dresser. It's not Victorian, but it's very pretty. Looks good with Victorian. I don't usually have a real theme going on in my pages, but on this page I did. I started with this Holly Hobby, making a snowman. So then I added some snow features. I've got this snow house with snow on it, and I had it quite a while, and finally I found the perfect place. It looks great with the snow. And here's a bird. There's snow in the picture, and the snowflakes, and some snow scrapbook paper. I just really like that one. There's another one of the houses. This is an adorable teddy bear that I printed off of Pinterest. She's wearing some big old pearls and a purse and a hat with roses, and I added a couple of little things. This is the more of the edge of a calendar page. I just added some things here and a butterfly and stuff. Is there only one page there? Yep. Okay, then this is a postcard and some scrapbook paper, and I added the butterfly and the flowers. This is some scraps from a calendar page. This I printed. This is by some artist. There's a Sue Walls. That's who it is. I love her artwork. I think she is the one who does these houses. And she also did this. It's just so pretty there. And there's other pictures like that you could probably find on Pinterest. And then I added one of my borders on here, and then I filled it in with a bunch of pretty little things. There's a picture of a house and birds and flowers and just some things. And also, like butterflies, I made the butterfly, you know, they were around in Victorian times. Here's an old picture of, that's like peasants in a field. That's not really Victorian, but it's vintage. And, oh, I love my Victorian houses. And then here I added a dog just for fun. Here's a lady in an apron. She's not Victorian, but she looks pretty cool. This is from the back of the calendar, you know, when they show the 12 pictures that's on the calendar pages on the back, and that's from that. This I cut out of one of the Holly Hobby calendars. There were several of these kinds of things, so I cut them out to reuse them. Here's a room full of hats and just all kinds of stuff. Kind of like a boutique of Victorian stuff. This is a magazine page, and I added this and the flowers and the bird cage. I had some scrapbook paper with all these bird cages on it, and I cut them all out because they weren't overlapping or anything. Some of them were on the edge, so there was only like half of it showing, but just using stuff up. Here's a calendar page. So pretty. And it's Easter. She's got eggs in a basket. So I put an Easter sticker here. This is from a calendar. I cut that out. I added a butterfly. The bird is part of the calendar page. And then I added things along the edge to fill in the space. And then a magazine page. See, I'm using pretty much a full page of a magazine as much as I can to just get me started, so I don't have to fill in the whole page. And I got to work with this area, and then add a few little details. This is a smaller. I did have some smaller Victorian calendars, and this is one of those. And this I printed, and this one too. Well, this might have been out of a magazine. This I definitely printed from Pinterest. And the key and some stamps I printed, or that might have been on scrapbook paper. I don't remember. That's scrapbook paper. These were on some scrapbook paper that I cut those out. There's a butterfly that I added. All of this was just originally on the page. Here's a room. And I just added some stuff. Here's a lady. I try to add people to every page. This is again the edge of a calendar page. This was on scrapbook paper. This is Tim Holtz right here. This is from scrapbook paper. Just lots of things. Here's a pretty room with a Victorian style bed. Just some stuff on a tabletop. A girl with her doll. A tag. Here's a pretty lamp and a dress form quilt. This is scrapbook paper. It's really, really pretty. This was, this might have been on a magazine page, I think, and I cut out the whole circle. I think it's a plate that you can order, maybe, from an old magazine. Quilt, clocks are good. Here's a cute little teddy bear by some rosy teapot and dishes and stuff. Scrapbook paper, This is, I colored this with watercolor, this part right here. That's a scrap of that. Just added a lot of nice little things. This page, I believe this has 30 pages in it, covering both sides makes 60. And normally my scrapbooks are 50 pages. But this one had the 30 pages, so I went with it. This is out of a magazine, the calendar, and I cut that out. Magazine page, scrapbook paper, scrapbook magazine. This is a real button card. There was you'd see the holes. There was buttons on it. It's vintage. It's actually old, maybe not 100 years old, but it's old and yellowed. And then here's one of them calendar pages. This is Tim Holtz People. I just added a dog, and it was printed, this card with writing on it, scrapbook paper, bird sticker, and a flower. Pretty much I left the house bare except for those two people. I have to feel to see what I've glued on to the other stuff. This is a magazine page, and I added these and all of this stuff. Printed this from Pinterest. Magazine, calendar, scrapbook paper, magazine, scrapbook paper. Here's a calendar page. I added this right here, and this, and this. Other than that, and then I just added a strip here and these two things. But the rest of it is just a calendar page. Okay, then I got this started with this fence. It's a modern picture out of a magazine, but it's just some roses, and that's what I started with. I added a real paper doily that I tea-dyed. Picture of birds and a Victorian papers girl and this little piece of map, scrapbook paper. I recently bought this punch. I don't have any big punches like this, but I bought this and I made that. These are from scrapbook paper. This is from some tickets I printed. This is out of a magazine. It's a modern art from a craft magazine. It's a bunny somebody made, and it looks pretty cute. And there's like a house that looks like a castle. We're getting there. It's a big book. This is actually a book cover. I found this at a thrift shop. I've had it quite a while. It's a Sears and Roebuck book about that thick, and it's got reproduction pages of the catalog pages with lots of pictures. It's got dresses and furniture and guns and lots of things. It's 1909, and it was actually reproduced, I don't know when, in the 80s maybe. But this is an actual cover from the book because I've been tearing it up and using the pages for scrapbooking for my glue books. And then I just, here's a magazine page, and I added this and I just filled in all the space. There's some pretty bird paper. And then this is a lady printed from Pinterest on scrapbook paper. This is from Pinterest. This is from a magazine. And this is from that catalog I was just talking about. I keep forgetting I have that. I need to use it more often. This is an actual tea bag that I tie-dyed. This is one of my little tags that I made. This is from a scrap from one of the calendars, and I glued it onto a piece of colored paper and used fancy scissors to cut around it. This is from scrapbooking paper. This is scrapbooking paper, scrapbook paper, magazine, calendar, magazine, scrapbook paper, just various things. Here's a pretty Victorian room and scrapbook paper and scrapbook paper. A magazine. This is from a magazine. This is from one of those small calendars. Okay, this one I started out with this landscaping. I like to use landscaping too. and just added these Tim Holtz ladies and a couple of scraps of stuff here and a butterfly and this postcard, and I added the bird. This I printed from Pinterest, some scraps of things, a porch, a bird, and more scrapbook paper scraps. And then I used a recipe card that was in one of the Holly Hobby calendars. This is from a magazine, and it had some writing on here, and I just covered up with some stuff. Scrapbook paper, one of my little tags. This is from the calendar magazine. This might be from a greeting card. This is scrapbook paper. This is a dog cut out of a magazine. This is so pretty. It's printed from Pinterest. Magazine page, scrapbooking stuff, scrapbook paper, just various things. And I've been collecting this stuff for years, just building my collection. So this is a calendar page, and I cut it down some. And I added these and the butterfly. I added this. This is scrapbook paper. This is printed from Pinterest, scrapbook paper. This is another page from that Coat of Many Colors book. Bird, scrap. This is from a scrap from a calendar. This is from a magazine. These are from a magazine. These are like vintage kitchen stuff. This is scrapbook paper. This I cut out of scrapbook paper. Just various things. This is an old reproduction postcard. This I printed from Pinterest, magazine, Pinterest. Scrapbooking paper. This is from a Kleenex box. This is from a catalog. This is just a sticker. Magazine. One of my tags. Printed. And then we're getting close to the end now. I did these today, I think. Here's a picture from a magazine, and basically as is, and I added this right here. And then this is scrapbooking stuff printed from Pinterest. This is out of a magazine. I made a whole bunch of these one time. Cut up all these. I think it might have been from a flower catalog. And put it on colored paper scraps and cut it out with decorative scissors. Here's a bird sticker. Just something I cut out. A fence. Stamp stickers. And then just today I was at the thrift shop, and I found an auction catalog of a collection of old dolls, and somebody had handwritten the prices that they sold them for, and they were worth hundreds of dollars. I don't know how old the book was, and they had some nice glossy magazine pages with the prices in there. It was pretty neat. And today I just cut this up, and so I'm going to have a lot of dolls in my book. There's a Victorian house. This is off a greeting card. This is off a greeting card, scrapbook paper, Tim Holtz, sticker, Tim Holtz. I cut this out of a magazine. This is out of a magazine. It's just some flowers with an old piece of wood fence there. This is out of a magazine, maybe. It's Precious Moments. This is out of a magazine. These are modern ladies dressed up in Victorian clothes. It's not an old picture. This is out of a magazine. This is a scrap of calendar that I made into one of my little tags. This is off a greeting card, and I just added these things. This is a magazine page. I added this sticker with the silverware because it's like the dining room. And this is the White Peony Tea Shop. This is a tea set from a magazine. This is from a magazine, scrapbooking stuff. This I printed from Pinterest. This was in that doll catalog. This was in a Victorian magazine, and I cut that out. Honestly, I did not even read these poems yet. I liked this page, and I added it. These are some scraps of scrapbook paper. This is a scrap of a calendar. This is printed from Pinterest. This is from a Victorian magazine. Printed. This is scrapbook paper. This is a greeting card. Are we finally to the last page? This is a calendar page. And I added this strip of print here. And then I added a bunny sticker and a turtle thing I glued on and a butterfly. And that was pretty simple. I cheated a little bit on that one, but I did make it my own. I added a few of my own little touches. So there's another Victorian scrapbook or glue book finished. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.